Welcome, dear listener. Tonight I invite you to drift back, far, far back, into the sands of time. We are not just travelling through history, we are journeying through memory itself, to a world both alien and familiar, a world ruled by gods and grounded in desert, a civilization that rose from the Nile and carved its stories into stone. Ancient Egypt. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Only if you truly enjoy going along on these journeys each night. Please also leave a comment about what time it is, where you're tuning in from and what is keeping you awake tonight. Only if you're comfortable. It is always lovely to connect to fellow listeners. Now, dim the lights and allow yourself to settle into a comfortable position. Let the weight of the day melt into your mattress. You're safe, still, and warm. But before we begin, a gentle warning. You, modern traveller, likely wouldn't last a day in ancient Egypt, and as the story unfolds you'll begin to understand why. Let your eyes grow heavy, let your breathing slow, and allow your imagination to open its doors. The first thing you notice is the heat. The sun has barely crested the horizon, yet already its warmth bakes the mud brick walls of your humble dwelling. Not the dry heat of a desert afternoon, not yet, but the subtle warmth of early morning. You are no longer in your bed. Instead, you lie on a low woven mat in a small mud brick home. Your pillow is a hardened piece of cloth wrapped around straw. There is no comfort of soft sheets against your skin or a mattress beneath you. The walls around you are cool to the touch. Above you, a ceiling of palm trunks and reeds. And already your day has begun. There is no alarm clock, no snooze button. The rhythm of the Nile and the rustle of papyrus reeds are your only cues. Insects buzz. The clatter of wooden sandals echoes as villagers stir to life. You are no longer yourself. You are now called Iset, a woman of Thebes in the 18th dynasty, or perhaps you are Kayemwaset, a young scribe in the court of Pharaoh Thutmose III. Either way, you're Egyptian, born under Ra's sun. You stretch, rising slowly. Your body aches, not from the softness of a mattress, but from the labour of days past. Your muscles carry memories of lifting heavy amphorae and tilling soil with bronze tools worn from use. Your day begins with the rise of the Nile mist. The city hums with the low voices of morning. Merchants setting up stalls, children feeding goats. A temple bell tolls in the distance. You step outside into a narrow alley that smells faintly of earth and grain. You're hit by the smell of livestock, dust, and something unshakably human, sweat. You splash your face with water from a ceramic pot, cooled slightly from the shade of your home. You look out at the fields, already knowing what the day will bring. The same tasks, the same heat, the same prayers. Your first task of the day, prayer. You cross your arms over your chest and bow before a small household altar. The statue of Bastet, cat-headed goddess of protection, watches over you. You whisper a quiet incantation in Middle Egyptian. Your life, like everyone else's, is a negotiation with the divine. Your life revolves around one god above all, the Nile. To live here is to depend on its flooding, its bounty, its favour. The floodwaters rise from the south, bringing black silt that blesses the farmlands with fertility. But if the Nile fails to flood, famine, starvation, death. Prayer alone doesn't feed the family. You're expected to work hard. The Nile may give life, but she demands labour. You trudge down to the riverbank with your neighbours. You share tools, stories, sometimes even bread. The bread is coarse and gritty, baked with sand that slipped into the flour millstones. So common that even wealthy mummies show worn-down teeth from a lifetime of eating it. You bend, digging irrigation trenches by hand. The sun is relentless. There is no sunscreen, no shade. The linen cloth draped over your head is your only protection. Hours pass. Time, for you, is measured not by clocks, but by shadow. When the sun is high, you break for a small meal. Lentils, onions, a bit of fermented beer thick enough to chew. You drink it not to celebrate, but to hydrate. But this was not the typical day for each person in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptian society was highly stratified, with occupations often inherited and rigidly defined. Workers fell into various categories. There were agricultural labourers who tilled the fertile lands along the Nile, planting and harvesting crops like wheat, barley and flax. Artisans and craftsmen were skilled in pottery, carpentry and metallurgy. They produced goods for both domestic use and trade. Construction workers engaged in monumental building projects, including temples and pyramids, often organised into labour gangs with specific roles. Servants and domestic workers served in the households of the elite, performing tasks ranging from cooking to childcare. Despite the hierarchical nature of society, workers were integral to the functioning of the state and were often compensated with food, shelter and clothing. The typical workday for a labourer began at sunrise and extended until sunset, with breaks during the hottest part of the day. Tasks varied by occupation. Farmers worked in accordance with the agricultural calendar, dictated by the Nile's inundation cycle. Artisans operated in workshops, often attached to temples or royal estates, producing goods with remarkable precision. Construction workers participated in state-sponsored projects such as pyramid building, which required immense manpower and coordination. Labourers were organised into teams, with overseers ensuring productivity and adherence to schedules. Workers resided in villages constructed near their places of employment. These settlements featured communal facilities, including bakeries, breweries and workshops. Housing was modest but functional, with flat roofs that provided additional living space. Community life was vibrant, with festivals, religious observances and social gatherings offering respite from daily labour. Workers participated in local rituals and maintained familial ties, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. While ancient Egypt was not a democracy, workers did possess certain rights and could express grievances. A notable example is the strike at Deir el-Medina during the reign of Ramesses III, where artisans protested delayed wages. This event is considered one of the earliest recorded labour strikes in history. Literacy was not widespread among workers. However, certain professions required basic education. Scribes, for instance, underwent rigorous training to master hieroglyphics and administrative tasks. In some worker communities, such as Deir el-Medina, a higher degree of literacy was observed, likely due to the specialised nature of their work. Now, if you are the pharaoh, life is vastly different to labourers and farmers. Life as a pharaoh in ancient Egypt was a paradox of divine isolation and immense responsibility. The pharaoh wasn't just a king, he was a god on earth, the living embodiment of Horus, son of the sun god Ra. His role was spiritual, political, military and symbolic. He was expected to maintain Ma'at, the divine balance of order, truth and justice, or risk cosmic chaos. You awaken with the first light of Ra, golden rays spilling across polished limestone floors. Servants tread quietly around you, careful not to disturb the divine silence. You're not merely a ruler, you're Pharaoh, the living god on earth, the bridge between the heavens and the Nile. To your people, your heartbeat is the rhythm of the cosmos, your word the echo of the gods. Before you even rise from your bed of carved cedar and linen, your household is already in motion. Attendants have drawn fresh water from lotus-scented pools. Scribes are preparing scrolls of petitions, reports, offerings. Waiting just outside the pillars of your private chamber, your priest is already at the small temple within the palace, burning incense in your name, calling to Horus, to Isis, to Thoth, announcing that the divine son of Ra is awake. You are dressed not as a man, but as something eternal. The white and red crown balanced on your brow proclaims your rule over both Upper and Lower Egypt. A golden uraeus, a cobra poised to strike, coils above your forehead, ready to spit fire at your enemies. Crook and flail in hand, symbols of shepherd and king, you're both protector and judge. You must be flawless, not just in dress or decorum, but in spirit. Your moods ripple across the empire like waves across the Nile. If you are balanced, Egypt is balanced. If you falter, the crops may fail, enemies may rise, the gods may turn away. In the great audience hall, voices fall to whispers as you enter. Viziers kneel, priests bow, soldiers strike the ground with their spears in unison. You take your seat not on a throne, but a symbol of cosmic order itself. From here, judgments are passed, alliances are formed, taxes are decreed, and monuments are imagined. You listen, you nod, you speak little, but when you do, the walls seem to echo your words long after silence falls. Later you walk among the gardens, a private oasis fed by irrigation channels drawn from the Nile itself. The lotus flowers open as if to greet you. Doves flutter from sycamore branches. There is peace here, the kind only power can afford. But peace is never permanent. Across the desert, rumours travel like wind. Foreign kings send gifts or threats. Libyan raiders test your borders. Hittite envoys bring scrolls sealed in wax. You gather your generals in the war chamber, a room lined with bronze weapons and papyrus maps. Every conquest is a sermon, every battle a declaration. Egypt is eternal. But not all war is waged with spears. Much of your power lies in stone and shadow. You commission a new temple, carved deep into a mountain, its facade guarded by colossal statues of your likeness. Artisans toil for decades to shape your legacy. Your deeds, both real and exaggerated, are carved into stone walls. In these hieroglyphs you are always triumphant, even in battle, even in death. You are the sun, forever rising. The rituals of state never end. At sunrise you offer incense to Amun-Ra. At noon you meet with high priests. At dusk you dine in silence, tasting figs, honey-glazed duck and pomegranates while scribes recount omens in the stars. There is music, flutes and lyres echo softly through marble halls, but no true solitude. You're surrounded always, yet alone always. There is no peer, only worshippers. At night your dreams are filled with symbols, scarabs, pyramids, the Eye of Horus watching from above. You think of your tomb already under construction in a hidden valley far from the reach of thieves. It is more than a resting place. It is your eternity, your guarantee of rebirth in the afterlife. Every chamber, every jar of unguents, every amulet placed with precision. For when you die, you will journey through the underworld, past serpents and lakes of fire, and your heart will be weighed against the feather of Ma'at. You must be prepared. Even now, as you breathe the sweet desert air, men labour in your name. Stonemasons in Thebes shape alabaster jars. Embalmers whisper prayers to Anubis over bodies wrapped in linen. Scribes ink your legacy into scrolls that will survive dynasties. You're pharaoh. Your life is not your own. It belongs to Egypt, to the gods, to time itself. And so, you return to the window carved into the limestone wall, where the moonlight spills across the Nile. Somewhere beyond the rushes, peasants sing to the rhythm of the flood. Children laugh in the courtyards of Memphis. And you, divine yet mortal, listen to the distant sounds of a kingdom that moves. Because you exist. As your eyes close, the land sleeps with you. The stars shine brighter, and the ancient winds whisper your name across eternity. From birth, the pharaoh was treated as more than human. He bore 5 royal titles, each representing his connection to the divine and his rule over both Upper and Lower Egypt. His name was carved into cartouches, immortalized on temples and monuments that still stand thousands of years later. The pharaoh wore the Nemes headdress, symbolizing royal power. The uraeus, a cobra emblem representing divine authority and readiness to strike enemies. The crook and flail shepherd's tools turned symbols of guidance and discipline. Every gesture, every word, every decree was not just royal, it was sacred. Being pharaoh was not a life of idle luxury. He bore the weight of Egypt's fate on his shoulders. His responsibilities included overseeing religion. He was high priest of every temple, ensuring the gods were honoured, fed, and obeyed through rituals and offerings. Commanding the military, the pharaoh led military campaigns to expand Egypt's borders and protect its wealth. often immortalised on temple walls as larger-than-life warrior scenes. Administering laws. Though scribes and viziers handled logistics, laws were seen as extensions of the pharaoh's divine will. Economic control. Pharaoh managed trade routes, construction projects, agriculture, and massive labour forces. Every flood of the Nile, every good harvest, every victory in war was attributed to the pharaoh's alignment with the gods. Pharaohs lived in lavish palaces which were mostly made of mud brick and thus have not survived like the stone temples they built. Still, these residences were hubs of court life, surrounded by gardens, pools, servants, and a fleet of courtiers. Their day often began with rituals, purification baths, dressing in symbolic regalia, receiving offerings and reports, meeting with advisors and priests. Meals were luxurious, roast meats, fruits, wine and honey cakes, but heavily guarded as poisoning was a threat. Pharaohs rarely travelled alone. Fan-bearers, scribes, guards and noble companions accompanied them everywhere. Privacy was nearly non-existent. The concept of Ma'at was central. Pharaoh was not just ruler of land, but custodian of balance. If he failed, if the Nile didn't flood, if famine struck or enemies invaded, people believed he had failed to uphold Ma'at, to ensure balance. He built temples, funded rituals, honoured the gods with offerings, consulted oracles and astrologers, and kept harmony among the priesthood, nobles and commoners. He wasn't free, he was bound by divine duty. Pharaohs were obsessed with legacy. They commanded massive building projects. Pyramids, temples, statues, obelisks that took decades to complete. These weren't just displays of power, they were spiritual vessels ensuring their immortality. Some highlights: Khufu's Great Pyramid, symbol of absolute rule and eternal afterlife. Hatshepsut's Mortuary Temple, an architectural marvel celebrating a female pharaoh. Ramses II's Abu Simbel, giant statues warning enemies of divine might. These structures were covered in reliefs glorifying their reigns, reminding the living and the gods of their greatness. No aspect of a pharaoh's life was more meticulously planned than his death. From the moment of ascension, a pharaoh would begin constructing his tomb, his gateway to eternity. Death was seen as a journey, and the pharaoh needed everything: food, treasure, weapons, even boats for the journey to the afterlife. Embalming was done with the utmost care. Tombs were filled with spells from the Book of the Dead. Protective amulets, shabtis, servants, and canopic jars were included. Pyramids or hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings were sealed with curses and guarded by elaborate. If you are Iset, a woman of Thebes in the 18th dynasty, you begin your day grinding barley. The stone quern is heavy. You push the grain back and forth, turning it into coarse flour for the day's bread. Your hands are calloused, your spine aches. You wear a linen shift that barely protects against the sun. If you're Kaimwaset, a young scribe in the court of Pharaoh Thutmose III, you carry a reed pen and ink made of soot and ochre. You sit cross-legged for hours in the scribal house, copying the wisdom of the ancients onto papyrus. Hieroglyphs aren't simply letters, they are sacred. To make a mistake is to risk offending Thoth, god of writing and wisdom. Outside, labourers dig canals under a punishing sun. Slaves haul limestone blocks to temple sites. There is no concept of a weekend, there is no paid time off. Disease is everywhere. Mosquitoes breed in the stagnant water. You drink beer instead of water, not for pleasure but survival. And yet, amidst all this, the struggle, the sweat, the daily uncertainty, there is a strange and quiet beauty. As the sun climbs higher, so too do your thoughts. Everything in your world is sacred. The lotus, the scarab beetle, the crocodile. You believe in the concept of Mat, cosmic order. To live justly is to maintain the balance of the universe. To lie, steal, or act without honour is to bring chaos into being. Your house contains charms, amulets in the shape of ankhs, carvings of the Eye of Horus to protect against illness. You fear death, and you prepare for it daily. The embalmer, wrapped in white linens, walks solemnly through your neighbourhood. a reminder that this life is but one phase of the soul's journey. Temples are not just places of worship. They are economic engines, storage houses, banks, schools. Priests spend hours in ritual cleanliness. They shave their entire bodies to remain pure. Incense clouds fill the air. Hymns echo off sandstone walls. You give offerings, bread, beer, figs, pomegranates. The gods must be pleased, always. In ancient Egypt, every moment is sacred, every breath is watched by the gods. There are over 2,000 deities in your world. Ra, the sun god, sails across the sky each day in his golden boat. Anubis watches over the dead. Bastet keeps evil spirits at bay. You offer prayers, small ones, simple ones. Sometimes a few dates or a piece of fish placed before a shrine. These gifts must be made, otherwise misfortune is sure to follow. Sickness? The work of malevolent spirits? A failed crop? The anger of a forgotten god? There is no medicine as you know it. Physicians exist, but they are rare. Instead, you rub ground ostrich eggs mixed with honey onto your skin and pray it heals your rash. You wear charms carved from faience to protect your children from the evil eye. And if someone dies, the entire village may wail for days. Death is not the end, but a terrifying trial. Life in Egypt is structured like a pyramid itself. At the apex sits Pharaoh, not merely a king, but a god made flesh. His word is law. His face is on your coins, his name is on every stone. You do not speak his name carelessly. When you pass a carving of him on a temple wall, you bow your head slightly. To defy Pharaoh is to defy Ma'at, the divine order. In your world, Ma'at governs all. It is the reason the Nile floods and recedes. It is why the sun sets and rises. If Pharaoh fails to uphold Ma'at, the cosmos would unravel, but you have little power. If Pharaoh declares war, your eldest son may be conscripted. If Pharaoh's taxes rise, you may lose your grain. You live at the mercy of whims carved into stone by people you'll never meet. The priests have their own power too. They speak to gods you fear and offer interpretations you don't question. When your child falls ill, you go to the temple, not the doctor. The temple is both a place of worship and of healing. You give an offering, incense, or a few coins. The priest chants words you don't understand and paints protective symbols on your child's body. Sometimes they recover, sometimes they don't. You don't blame the gods, you blame yourself. This is your life, anchored to the will of forces greater than you, and guided by rituals older than memory. Rituals shape every hour of your existence. From the sacred cow of Hathor to the amulets of Anubis, your world is thick with symbols and omens. You don't bathe in private. You wash in the river, facing the sun, thanking the gods. You use natron salts and clay and sand to scrub away the impurities, not just from the body, but from the soul. Food is simple: barley bread, lentils, dates. If you're lucky, a piece of fish. You chew slowly, not because it tastes good, but because you know it may be all you eat until tomorrow. At night the air cools, the stars begin to glitter, but they are not just stars, they are the souls of gods watching from the sky. You do not sleep without lighting a small flame, placing a protective scarab under your mat and saying a prayer to Bastet to keep scorpions away. In the distance, the priest chants to Ra, closing the temple doors for the night. Even gods need rest. And when you dream, you hope the gods speak to you. Not in nightmares, but in visions. As the sun dips behind the distant dunes, the city changes. Shadows stretch long over the temples. Torches flicker in clay sconces. The streets quiet except for the jackal's cry in the distance. You return home. You share a small meal with your family. Flatbread, onions, lentils, a bit of dried fish if you're lucky. You lie on your mat once more. The stars above are the same stars you know today, but to you they are gods. You think of Osiris in the underworld. You think of the weighing of the heart. You wonder, have I lived with Ma'at? Will my soul be light enough? You are tired, not just from labour, but from the constant awareness that your actions have cosmic consequences, and yet you feel anchored. You belong. You're a thread in a tapestry far older than you can comprehend. Now imagine that you're not a farmer. Imagine you are a noble, a scribe, someone who reads and writes the sacred language of the gods, hieroglyphs. Your hands are soft. Your voice is respected. You do not toil in the fields. You write decrees, copy scrolls, calculate taxes. Your meals include honeyed figs and roasted duck. Your home is decorated with imported cedar from Lebanon and perfumes made from lotus flowers. But power comes with a price. If you displease your superiors, you may find yourself stripped of rank. Or worse, the pharaoh is divine. To question him is to question the gods themselves. You know your place and you must remain in it. And for most people, there is no escaping it. Today is a holy day. The temples echo with chanting. You have washed yourself ritually. The priests wear leopard skins. Incense fills the air. Frankincense, myrrh, sweet blue lotus. The statue of Horus is paraded through the streets. You bow. You whisper your desires into the wind. You hope the gods are listening. At night your village gathers. Music echoes from simple lyres and hand drums. The stars shimmer above, untouched by light pollution. You know every constellation, and every constellation has a story. You eat with family. The elderly tell tales of wars, plagues, and miracles. Children chase fireflies. The village hums with the warm rhythm of survival. Beneath the searing Egyptian sun, stretching across the Giza plateau like petrified prayers to the sky, rise the pyramids. The last of the 7 wonders still standing. Towering, eternal, shrouded in mystery, these geometric monuments were not built merely for the dead. They were built to defy death itself. Each block, each shadow they cast, is a sentence in the great silent language of immortality. You are there, in the 4th dynasty, around 2600 BCE. The air is thick with dust and devotion. Before you lies a marvel still under construction, the Great Pyramid of Khufu. You crane your neck to see the summit, a golden capstone glinting in the sun, not yet in place, but soon. This mountain of stone, crafted not by gods but by human hands, climbs 480 feet into the heavens. More than 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing up to 15 tons, have been quarried, dragged, shaped and stacked without mortar, fitted so precisely that not even a blade of copper can slide between them. Workers, not slaves as many would believe, labour in organised crews, each with a name like the Friends of Khufu. They are fed, clothed, housed in nearby villages. They sing chants to keep rhythm as they haul stone up massive ramps, wetted with water to reduce friction. The ramps themselves are engineering marvels, spiralling around the rising structure or leading straight from the quarries, massive in scope, then dismantled and buried by time. You can hear the thud of wooden sleds across the sand, the groan of ropes made of papyrus and leather. Engineers bark orders. Overseers keep records with reed pens on clay tablets. It is chaos woven into order. The inner chambers of the pyramid are no less extraordinary. You descend into the cool darkness of the grand gallery, its corbelled ceiling looming above like the ribs of a stone whale. The passage narrows and drops, revealing the king's chamber, a sacred space lined with red granite hauled from Aswan over 500 miles away. How they transported these immense blocks, floating them up the Nile during inundation season, is a mystery still whispered about. Above the chamber, 5 relieving vaults, each a ceiling upon a ceiling, distribute the crushing weight from above, evidence of the brilliance hidden in the stone. But why build such a thing? Because to the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end. It was a portal. The pyramid was a machine for resurrection. Its shape, rising to a point, mirrored the rays of the sun, lifting the soul of the pharaoh toward Ra in the afterlife. It was an axis mundi, a ladder between worlds. The texts etched in future pyramids, the pyramid texts, speak of the journey. Spells, invocations, passwords, all part of the sacred technology to guide the king's car through the treacherous underworld. You pause at the base of a nearby smaller pyramid, a satellite for a queen, and look out across the plateau. Pyramids dot the land like celestial markers, aligned precisely with the stars. The Great Pyramid itself is aligned almost perfectly to true north, a feat nearly impossible without modern tools. Theories abound. sightlines with stars like Thuban, water levels and plumb bobs, or tools now lost to history. The level of precision rivals modern architecture. You begin to understand this was more than a tomb. It was a cosmic declaration. Time stretches forward and backward in these sands. You imagine the earlier step pyramids, like that of Djoser, built by the polymath Imhotep, a 6-tiered ziggurat of stone. There, the art of pyramid building began. You see the failed experiments too. The bent pyramid with its sudden change in angle, the collapsed Medum pyramid, standing like a broken tooth. Each attempt, a lesson. Each success, a testament. As the sun sinks lower, the stones seem to glow with heat. Theories drift through your mind. Some say aliens built them, a modern myth born from our inability to believe ancient humans could achieve such grandeur. Others point to lost tools, ancient mathematics, forgotten sciences. Still, the truth lies somewhere in between. Discipline, belief, time, and sheer willpower. Over 20 years, tens of thousands of workers, generations of knowledge, and the might of an empire bent towards one goal, eternity. Hieroglyphs, the language of the gods, begin to glow in your imagination. You run your hand along a nearby temple wall, its carvings sharp as the day they were etched. Hieroglyphics are not just pictures. Each symbol is a world. An owl for M, a reed leaf for I, a vulture for A. There are over 700 signs. Some stand for sounds, others for whole ideas. Determinatives anchor meanings, showing that the glyph before it is about a place, a person, or an action. To read hieroglyphics is to be part priest, part poet. Scribes spend decades mastering the script. They learn not only how to write, but how to interpret. They know the stories of gods and kings, the rituals of birth and burial, the inventories of granaries, and the chronicles of conquest. Their tools are simple: a reed pen, black and red ink, and sheets of papyrus harvested from the river's edge. And yet, with these, they craft spells, prayers, and contracts that last thousands of years. The Rosetta Stone, a future key to unlocking this ancient script, lies centuries away. But in this moment, the script is alive. You read a blessing etched beside a cartouche. May the king live, prosperous and healthy for all eternity. It is a plea, a command, and a prophecy all in one. The air cools. Night comes fast in the desert. The pyramids turn to silhouettes, enormous triangles cut from the stars. You imagine the rituals performed here, the funeral procession, with priests in leopard skins, chanting spells from scrolls of the Book of the Dead. The weighing of the heart done not in stone but in spirit, where the feather of Ma'at decides your fate. You imagine the jars of natron used to dry the dead, the resins, the amulets placed between linen layers, each symbol a protection for the long voyage beyond life. You fall asleep beneath the gaze of the Sphinx, her weathered face still watching over the secrets of time. The pyramids do not speak, but they do not need to. Their silence is louder than words. In their shadow you are reminded that we are all just echoes in the desert. Some louder, some etched in stone. The stars shimmer, the wind shifts, the sands remember. You're old now. Your body has laboured for decades. You've raised children, you've seen plagues. You've endured famine and feast. But the end is near. You do not fear death, not entirely, for in your heart you believe in the Duat, the underworld. But the afterlife is not guaranteed. First, your soul must pass through judgment. Your heart will be weighed against the feather of Ma'at, goddess of truth. If your heart is heavy with wrongdoing, it will be devoured by Amit, the soul eater. You will be forgotten. So your family prepares your body with oils and bandages. Your name is written on your tomb. Small figurines, shabtis, are buried with you to serve you in the afterlife. But if your family is poor, your burial is simple. The heat dries your body. Time forgets you. And thus the day ends. The sun sets once again over the golden dunes. You live with the constant awareness of death, but not as an end. To die is to journey. The funerary rites are sacred. Your family must embalm you correctly, or your soul may be trapped forever. Your heart is weighed against a feather by Ma'at. If your heart is heavy with wrongdoing, it is eaten by Amit, a monster part lion, hippo and crocodile, and your soul is gone. But if you pass the test, you walk in the field of reeds, an eternal mirror of Egypt, full of lush fields and joy. This is why you save what little you can for your tomb. Even the poor are buried with a few items, a jar, a comb, a small figurine to work for you in the afterlife. You do not fear death, but you respect it. You prepare, because in Egypt the dead outnumber the living, and they are never far away. Picture that you are standing under the dry, golden light of the desert sun. A faint smell of myrrh, natron and incense hangs in the air. Before you lies a cool stone chamber filled with jars, linen and tools of ancient craftsmanship. You're not a mere visitor here. You're a participant, a witness to one of the most sacred, complex and labour-intensive processes of ancient Egyptian life, the embalming of the dead. To the modern mind, death is something we try to ignore, to sanitize, to hide. But for the ancient Egyptians, it was the beginning of eternity. They believed the soul was composed of multiple parts, the Ka, the Ba, the Ach, and more, and that proper preparation of the body was essential for the soul to find peace and purpose in the afterlife. Let's begin with a foundational truth. Egyptians did not embalm to simply preserve memory. They embalmed to preserve identity. Without a recognizable body, the soul could not recognize its home. The result? Eternal unrest. And so, you stand before the chief embalmer, a priest wearing a mask of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification. The body lies before you, recently passed, recently washed. There is no mourning in this moment, only precision. Step 1 is the purification. The body is washed using palm wine, infused with essential oils and antiseptics. Then, water from the sacred Nile is poured over the skin. The goal is to cleanse not only the physical form, but to also symbolically purify the soul. This cleansing is done with utmost reverence, as if the body is still aware, still watching. Step 2 is evisceration, the removal of internal organs. You might want to look away, the next part is not for the faint-hearted. A small incision is made on the left side of the abdomen. Using obsidian blades, the internal organs, stomach, liver, intestines and lungs, are removed with care. These organs will decay quickly if left inside and must be treated separately. But even their removal has spiritual consequence. Each organ is assigned a guardian deity. Imseti guards the liver, Hapi guards the lungs, Duamutef guards the stomach, Kebesenuef guards the intestines. Each of these organs is embalmed with natron and placed into canopic jars, beautifully carved and sealed, which will be buried with the body. But there is one major exception, the heart. In earlier periods, the heart was believed to be the seat of intelligence and memory. It was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice. In the afterlife, a heart heavier than the feather meant the soul was devoured by Amit, a creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. In some cases, however, the heart was mistakenly removed. When this happened, a scarab amulet inscribed with spells from the Book of the Dead would be placed in its position to deceive the gods. The brain, by contrast, was not considered important. A metal hook was inserted through the nose, swirling to liquefy the brain, which was then drained. Modern studies show the Egyptians mastered this process with astonishing anatomical knowledge. Step 3 is dehydration with natron. Now the body must be dried. This is where natron, a naturally occurring salt composed of sodium carbonate, bicarbonate and other minerals, plays its part. The body is packed inside and out with natron and left to dry for 40 days. Why 40? It's more than just tradition. 40 is a sacred number across cultures, symbolizing trial and purification. The body loses all moisture during this time, becoming resilient, leathery and safe from decay. Modern science has since confirmed that this process is highly effective. Natron draws out moisture without damaging skin tissue, effectively preserving muscle tone and facial features. In some cases, mummies have been so well preserved that fingerprints remain visible after thousands of years. Step 4 is wrapping and binding. Once the body is dry, it is washed again and anointed with sacred oils, not for aroma, but for resurrection. Each layer of linen wrapping is accompanied by incantations from the Book of the Dead. Amulets are slipped between the layers, a scarab for rebirth, an eye of Horus for protection, a jed pillar for stability. The wrapping is methodical and symbolic. Individual fingers and toes are wrapped first, then the limbs, torso and head. Each layer is sealed with resin, a sticky substance like ancient glue that further preserves the wrappings and blocks bacteria. This process can take 15 to 70 days, depending on the status of the deceased. Royal mummies were often wrapped in linen with golden threads, perfumed resins, and spells carefully chosen by temple scribes. The final shroud is placed. The body is now whole, sealed for eternity. Step 5 is burial and the journey to the afterlife. Once wrapped, the mummy is placed inside a series of nested coffins, each more decorated than the last. A cartonnage mask is laid over the face, painted with gold leaf and inlaid with lapis lazuli or obsidian. Then the entire sarcophagus is lowered into a tomb where servants have stocked it with food, wine, cosmetics, clothing and even board games. Why? Because the afterlife is not a realm of ghosts, but a mirror of Earth. The soul would need all these things to continue its journey. Some tombs even contained Shabti figurines, tiny servants who would magically come to life and perform labour for the deceased in the afterlife. You walk slowly through the tomb now, seeing hieroglyphs carved into the walls, stories of battles, of family, of gods and the stars. These inscriptions are not just memorials, they're spells, etched in stone, meant to activate the soul's passage. You begin to realise that everything in this civilization, its medicine, its art, its rituals, and even its architecture, converges into one singular aim, to make death into something beautiful. And yet, could you have survived here? Could you have handled the precision, the discipline, the 70-day fastidious process of preparing the dead? Would your heart be light enough to pass the test of Mayat? Or would it be devoured by the crocodile-headed beast that waits in the shadows? You lie down on the cool stone floor of the embalming chamber. The light of the oil lamp flickers. You feel the pulse of ancient knowledge vibrate through the walls. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, carried not into fear, but into fascination. This is not the end of life. For the ancient Egyptians, this is only the beginning. And now, slowly you return. The desert winds fade. The scent of incense disappears. The chatter of markets and temples dissolves into silence. You are back in your bed, back in your time. But perhaps not entirely the same. Now you know what it meant to live in ancient Egypt. The beauty, the burden, the reverence, the resilience. And perhaps you understand why you wouldn't last a day. And yet, perhaps you would last long enough to understand it. To feel the rhythm of the Nile in your breath. To glimpse the gods behind the stars. Sleep well, traveller of time. May your dreams be wrapped in linen, carried by barges of moonlight, and may you be protected. Good night. Sleep well, sleepless academic.